Packet Tracer Activity 4.6.5. Connect a wired and wireless LAN. In this activity, you're going to use different types of network media to connect network devices. We'll begin by connecting router 0 to the cloud. So let's go ahead and examine router 0 to begin with. So I'm going to click on here and I'm going to try to identify what types of connections it has. So if you click on a device, you can see the physical backplane of the router. I'm going to zoom in here so that we can actually see things a little better. So we've got a couple of fast Ethernet ports, a console port, an auxiliary port, and over here we have some serial ports. So we can see a few different types of options here for connectors. And let me go to the cloud as well. We'll zoom in here. We have a line in port, and it looks like we have Ethernet and a console and auxiliary port. For these, we're going to use a copper connector to connect them. So if we go to our connections area, and we're going to choose a straight through copper connection, we'll go from the fast Ethernet 00 port on the router, and to the cloud we're going to go to the Ethernet 6 port. Notice that we've got these green triangles here. These indicate link lights. Green indicates that the connection is working properly. Next, we'll connect router 0 to router 1, and for this we're going to use a serial connection. Serial connections are the red connectors here. Either one in this case will work. So in router 0 will connect to serial 000, and router 1 will connect to serial 00. Once again, notice that the link lights indicate the correct connection. Next, let's connect router 0 to the NetAcad PKA server. Now we're going to do a direct connect here rather than through a switch. So this requires us to use something rather than a straight through connector. We're going to have to use a crossover cable in order to do this. So the crossover cable is the dashed black connector. So we'll click on the router, go to fast Ethernet 0, and then go to the server and connect its fast Ethernet 0 as well. Next, we want to be able to configure router 0, so we're going to connect the configuration terminal to the router. And we're going to do this using a console cable. The console cable is the blue cable here. So click on the configuration terminal, and we're going to have to use the RS-232 serial port here. And then on the router, we'll use the console port. One connection I realized I skipped was connecting the cable modem to the cloud. So for this particular one, we're going to be using a coaxial connector. So let's find the coaxial here. It's the blue line. So we'll go to the cable modem, choose the port 0, and go to the cloud and choose the coaxial 7 connector. So now we're at part 3, connecting the remaining devices. For this particular portion of the exercise, I'm going to let you do this on your own. Now that all the devices are connected and the connections are working, you can go ahead and test them. So let's go ahead and open the family PC, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a ping. So go to the desktop, then the command prompt, and let's run a ping here. So run, if I can type, ping netacad.pka and press enter. Now this will take a little bit of time because there's a few things going on in the background. We're having to get the DNS query in, and we're having to transfer across several routers that at this point do not have all the information they need to properly respond. So I'm just going to pause and come back when it's finished. Alright, this took a few seconds more, but now we do have a proper ping. So we are able to talk to the NetAcad server. So let's next, we're going to go ahead and go to the web browser, and we're going to go to the web page. So we're going to go to netacad.pka, and we got the page as we hoped. Next, we're going to see if we can get to the switch. So we'll use the command prompt again. Actually, we were going to use a different computer here. We're going to use the home PC. And go to the desktop, command prompt, and let's go ahead and ping this. Well, we're going to need to know what the IP address was set for the switch. So we'll go to the top of the activity, and it's 172.16.0.2. Let's see what we get. Once again, this will take a little bit of time. Notice we get some timeout requests, and that's to be expected because the data isn't necessarily updated in the appropriate places. So at this point, we've got a response back. The switch is working, or excuse me, the connection between the home PC and the switch is working. So let's next go to the configuration terminal, and we'll do some configuration. We'll look at the configuration on the router. So if I go here to desktop, I go to terminal, accept the defaults, and click OK, I'll be at the router's command prompt. So here we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at the interfaces. So I'm going to do a show IP interface brief. So it's showing us that there are interfaces up, in this case Fast Ethernet 0, Fast Ethernet 1, and Serial. And you notice we do have those three connections up and running. Up to this point in Packet Tracer, we've been looking at a logical diagram of the network. Next, we're going to be looking at the physical side of the network. To look at the physical network, we'll go ahead and click on this tab here. Now this is going to take us back, and we're going to actually see a city view and other potential cities that we have in our physical environment. We can move around in this environment by scrolling left and right with the scroll bars and up and down. Now our focus is going to be over here on the home city itself. So I'm going to click on the home city. This is going to take us to the different networks that we have a part of our logical diagram. And you'll notice there's 4. So if I go back here, we'll notice there's a cloud network. There's a network associated with router 0. There is a network associated with router 1, and there's a network associated with a wireless router. So the cloud is where we'll start. So if I open the cloud network, you'll notice that we see here some devices that would be in a networking rack. The top device here is a power distribution panel that we'd use to connect our different devices. And in the cloud, we have one item up here. This is a router. It has some series of areas to connect here. It actually has a coaxial connector, as we know. If we go back here, it goes out to our cable modem. And it has an Ethernet connector here that goes out to our router. You can zoom in and out of this to see potentially other information that may be shown here. So I'm going to click the zoom out because we're zoomed in all the way. And we'll see here that the rack is the only thing in this network. So if you press the back button here, we'll move back up one layer here, in this case to see our networks. I'll go ahead and I'll click on the primary network next. So here in the primary network, we have the configuration terminal plus a series of other devices in our rack. Now I open the configuration terminal, which is not what I wanted to do. Let's go ahead and look at the rack. So I'm going to zoom in here to the rack. I'll zoom in again. Once again, we have the power distribution panel. We have a router, and we have a server here. So in this particular case, on our router, we have a series of connections in here. We have a serial connection. We have a fast Ethernet connection, console connection here, etc. You can actually make connections here at this level. If I were to take the delete tool here, I could actually delete the connection between the server and the router. I could then reconnect it between the fast Ethernet here and the fast Ethernet here. And unfortunately, I used the wrong cable, so I should go ahead and delete that and make the correct connection here. For this, I actually wanted the crossover cable. So let me grab the crossover cable, connect it in here, and then come down to the fast Ethernet port on our server. Let's go back again. So we also have a secondary network here. Let's zoom out and see if we can see anything else. Nothing else there. And then lastly, we have the home network. Now this doesn't have any racks because homes typically don't have racks in them. So let me go back to the logical network here. This concludes this video.